Hello, welcome to the Light in the Telling podcast. My name is Grace. I'm a biochemistry major at the University of Maryland.
My name is Joanna. I'm a cell bio major at the University of Maryland.
And we're here today to talk about the starting of Light in the Telling. So, Joanna, since you're the founder of Light in the Telling, do you want to tell us a bit about the mission statement?
Yes, so Light in the Telling's mission statement is, currently we are organizing a conference called More Than a Patient, a conference on medical discrimination. And what we hope is that we're able to gather students, healthcare professionals, representatives from social advocacy groups, and volunteer organizations to come and talk on the topic of medical discrimination. And the hope that I have is that as we invite these student speakers to come and share what they have witnessed regarding patients facing medical discrimination or what they personally experienced, we're able to create a community that is supportive. And at the end of the day, I really hope that students that aspire to be medical professionals or healthcare professionals, or even students interested in medical discrimination or people that have faced medical discrimination in the past, can come to this conference and feel very comforted, encouraged, but also be inspired to be compassionate leaders themselves in the future.
I love that. That's a great mission statement.
Thanks, Grace.
So the goal of this podcast is, to continue talking about medical discrimination, and we'll also invite some experts onto this podcast to talk about health equity, health disparities, social determinants of health, what have you. And so today we are joined by Joanna, as we know, and we're just going to talk more about Light in the Telling. So, Joanna, you talked about your mission statement already. I just want to ask you, where did you get the idea to, come up with this conference? I feel like it takes a lot of initiative to put together all these ideas and come up with a conference.
Yeah, this is kind of funny, but I actually had a dream. And in that dream, during that stage of my life, I was actually preparing for a missions trip. So I was going to a new country called Kosovo. Well, not a new country, but I was going to a country called Kosovo. And there I was just doing things for missions. And when I came back, I had a dream that I went into a hospital and I got discriminated due to my religious beliefs. And the doctor was like, no, I'm not going to accept you as my patient. And when I woke up, I was very I think I was disheartened and very frustrated, because I was why can I not receive certain treatment just because of my religion? And for me, that was a dream, right? But the thought that these things medical discrimination actually happens in real life situations made me look into it a little more. So after that dream, I went online and just searched up a few medical discrimination stories that these patients shared online. And the more I read, the more I was I really want to bring this on campus, in terms of just talking about medical discrimination and also creating that type of community for everyone. And as I am organizing this conference, I actually had a lot of conversations with a lot of different people who shared I've had personal experiences with medical discrimination, and they all have been very supportive of this mission. And I think that's why I'm very thankful that this initiative is actually being executed this semester now.
And I think thanks in a large part to you. I think you've done a lot of behind the scenes planning and finding and recruiting a team for Light in the Telling. I think it's awesome.
Yes, thanks, Grace. And a little background story is Grace and I, we were gonna do a podcast series on this, and then I changed it to a conference. But we ended up incorporating this podcast aspect, which I'm very thankful for.
Well, Joanna, even though you turned the podcast into a conference, I still really like your conference. Would you like to tell us and our audience about what our or what your conference will be about, and what do you plan to do at the conference?
Yeah, so our conference is held March 28th, 2026. Mark your calendars, from 10 to 2 p.m. And it's basically organized as a mini conference. So the first 3 hours is going to be the conference where we have student speakers. We hope to have like representatives from social advocacy groups and healthcare professionals to talk about medical discrimination. So the student speakers are going to be discussing on how they have witnessed medical discrimination in like a clinical setting, or how they personally witnessed medical discrimination. And the social advocacy groups will be talking about like, yeah, like what are some initiatives that you guys are doing? How are you advocating for this issue, this social issue? And the healthcare professionals will be discussing on like what are some measures that are being executed or being done currently in the hospital or like in the clinical setting. And we're gonna top that and integrate engagement activities. So a few things we have is like the care card activity, where we write encouragement notes to our student speakers and maybe like ask them questions. We also have like networking, where our audience can go around and like talk to our speakers. And we also have like other people that are going to be here for networking opportunities. And I hope that the conference is going to be more of like a conversational conference where people can just go around to learn each other's stories, etc. And then the last hour of the conference is going to be the social impact fair, where we invite like local community organizations or even like clubs or classes or departments on campus who can provide tangible opportunities for these students after they got to hear more about what medical discrimination is. So that is the way that this conference is designed.
Wow, this sounds like a really impactful conference. I mean, having like all the student speakers and medical professionals, I feel like it will be very informative and a great like day of storytelling.
Yeah, I think storytelling is definitely one thing that I hope we do the most. There's so much power in storytelling. That was it. But yeah, like I think as I was designing the conference, I think I really wanted it to be conversational. The title of the conference is called More Than a Patient, a conference on medical discrimination. And what, like, when I was designing the name with Joy, More Than a Patient was like what we wanted, where we look at patients not as a profile or being like, oh, they have these certain things, but more as like a personal connection. I felt like More Than a Patient meant we're not looking at them as like, yeah, profiles, but more of them as an individual.
Right.
So I was reading this book earlier in my college years, and there was this one quote. I'm probably paraphrasing it, but it was like, oh, patience. The word patient is so meaningful because it has the word patient. Like, patients are so patient. And I didn't really like think about that until I kind of read that. And I was like, dang, like, because I'm a pre-med student, so I was so fixated on like, yeah, like getting into medical school, learning about these like different diseases, or like yeah, treatments, like what's the best way to like be a doctor, become a doctor. But once I read that, I realized like, oh, this is not about me and what I can do, but this is about how can I help, and like, and how can I help these people, but not only in physical health, but mental health and also emotional health. And especially in the emotional aspect of things, I feel like conversations is where you get a lot of healing. And I think that's also a lot of areas in my life where I receive a lot of healing, like from my friends, my family. I think that's why I want this conference to be very conversational. Yeah.
I like that, and it makes the idea of a conference sound less intimidating.
Yeah. I think that
And
is our goal.
I also really resonate with that book, When Breath Becomes Air,
Yeah.
and I remember that like
Right?
quote or that passage now that you talk about it. And yeah, it really makes me think, because I've I feel like I've been a patient in like so many
Yeah.
ways dealing with my health struggles.
Yeah.
And it just makes me grateful that the health providers I've seen have like seen me beyond just the symptoms I have.
Yeah.
And well, Joanna, since this is a conversational conference, who is the audience of this conference supposed to be?
So the audience that I hope is undergraduate students, especially students that are considering pursuing medicine in the future, or even just like a healthcare professional. You don't have to be a pre-med student. I think you can be any healthcare professional, pre-nursing or pre-dent or etc. And I think that's because, like I mentioned earlier, I hope to really build a community of leaders who are compassionate, who don't only focus on, like the check boxes of medical school or check boxes of these professional schools, but are you able to be an individual that is compassionate towards just other individuals? Can you look at life more than just your career, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I hope that I am able to do as well. I think you might relate to this too, because you're also pre-med, but the older that we get, I think the pressures of having to fulfill a lot of requirements get stronger and stronger. And I hope that this conference is able to bring us back to the root question of why do we want to become a doctor? And we focus on more of these like human aspect of things. Yeah, and not focusing on like what can go on our resume and etc. Yeah.
I like that. It brings me back to the idea I once heard from a physician that the like primary goal of physicians and people in healthcare is to really like ameliorate the like patient condition, and that's so much more than just their symptoms. It's also like their quality of life.
Yeah.
And like you said, them as an individual versus like their disease or their illness.
Yeah. And like adding on to that, like I was shadowing a physician over winter break, and this patient came in and was just sharing about how like the doctor was prescribing him a few medications, but he was saying like, oh, like I'm getting like tested, like I don't want anything like found, that might prevent him from getting like a job, or like a medication that might hinder him from his oral surgery that's coming up. And that was like kind of eye-opening for me, because I didn't really think that would also play a role in like a physician's like responsibilities. But for a patient, their life is beyond just like their physical health having to be good. It's also like their quality of life, like what you were saying. So I feel like, as a physician, we also need to be very like rounded individuals, if that makes sense. You have to focus on a lot of different things rather than just what you mentioned, like the medical condition that they have.
Well, Joanna, I'm very excited for your conference. I hope all our listeners can attend. Please come support. And this is Light in the Telling.
Yes. See you guys next time. Bye.
Stay tuned for a talk with an expert in health equity.
Yes. Bye.